Happy Thursday, Facebook friends. Welcome back to Facebook for another edition of Teacher Talk. I'm Angie Garza, Director of Professional Learning and Educational Services at RW 47, serving Lee, Ogle, and Whiteside counties. And we are joining you back on our very fine social media platform for another wonderful conversation this week. As many of you know, this is our second season of Teacher Talk, and we've been catching up with some of our ROE staff and our area educators from Lee, Ogle, and Whiteside counties. And today you are in for a special treat. We have with us this morning Mr. Jeff Hoese. Jeff is the principal of Fulton Elementary School in Fulton, and we are going to talk with him all things technology, education, and what's happening in his building for the 21-22 school year. So good morning, Jeff. How are you this morning?
I am excellent. Thank you for asking. Angie, how are you today?
You know, I am well. I am just continually in awe of the fact that we are racing through this first half of the school year. And I know that it's probably been a whirlwind for you as well. So glad to hear that you are well and maybe even just kind of like holding on for the ride at this point.
Well, I would say the one thing that I commonly get asked is, hey, how's the school year going? And my answer is busy. Like, not bad, not great, but just busy. Like, there's so much going on that I blink, it's noon. I blink, it's 4 p.m. I blink, it's 6. And I wonder where the day went. So, this year's totally been different from last, but we're here, we're in session. It's great to see kids and staff, for full days. So yeah, I can't complain. Well, I could, but I'm not gonna.
So I'm gonna ask you and put you on the spot here for just a second. I've said this myself, and I'm interested in your perspective. I've said for some reason, and maybe my perspective is out of whack, but I feel like this year is busier than last year when we were trying to navigate a world that we were very unfamiliar with. And you would think that we would kind of be used to this by now, but for some reason, I'm not feeling that this year. Are you in the same boat, or
I think my staff would say the same, that this year has been busier and there's been more to do than last year. And I would even make the argument that it's more stressful than last year. I think last year, one of the benefits of it being so unusual for everybody was there was a very large amount of grace given that we were figuring things out together. And we all expected that at the end of the last school year and moving into this school year, hey, normal, everything's gonna be back to normal. Well, there were pivots in August by, ISB. There were changes that had to be made. And it's still not normal from what we traditionally believe that. So yeah, there's a lot to take in. There's a lot to do, a lot to have to keep up with. And yeah, I mean, there's anxiety and there's stress more so now than I think there was last year. And I think my staff would agree with that.
So you mentioned the stress, certainly when we get that call to leadership. Maybe we don't fully anticipate that kind of mantle we put on, including all of those stressors. So I'm interested, as we start our conversation this morning, what called you to leadership? Tell us a little bit about your path and how you arrived in that chair that you're sitting in at Fulton Elementary.
Oh, sure. So I'm a hometown guy through and through. I'm from Fulton. I've lived in Fulton. I went to these schools. After high school, I went to Sauk Valley Community College. From there, it was Mount St. Clair, then it was Franciscan University, and then it became Ashford University just on the other side of the river. So, still in that area. During those times, I was coaching here locally. So I had an opportunity to be a long-term sub when I graduated in like the December area. So I got to be a long-term sub at Fulton High School. I got hired on part-time the following year. I became a full-time teacher after that, was there for, 12 plus years. And then I had gotten involved with our education association, our union. So I was involved with them for several years. And then the final couple of years that I was in as a high school teacher, I was our education association president. And during that time, and here's where I give an ode to Chris Tennyson. So Chris would continuously kind of prod and say, hey, I think you'd be a great leader. Have you thought about this? No, I'm happy being a teacher. I love coaching. No, I couldn't. And then I think he probably just wore me down. But then I also saw I could make a bigger impact. So took my courses to get certified to do that. We had a retiring principal here at Fulton Elementary, so timeline it all lined up really well for me. And then I was able to transition from our high school to our elementary school. And the nice thing was, I had a lot of good relationships already established through the Education Association with the elementary staff. So that was a nice transition, especially going in as a first year principal without any assistant principalship experience to lean on. I couldn't have been happier for the way the process kind of played out, because it was very beneficial to me.
Well, certainly, I don't think that you ever expected that you would be leading through a pandemic. So how?
Oh, totally said it in my interview. I said, hey, I expect a pandemic's coming. First 3 years, I see it. No, God, my goodness. And that's the weird thing, is to step back and like, I'm a pandemic principal. I've only been a principal I don't know what normal is, because this is my normal. So I think I would probably be more frustrated if I had years of normalcy, that I would be like, I just wanted to go back to the way it was. Like, I had 3/4 of that, but as a first year principal, there was a lot I didn't know then. And every day was a crash course learning in how to be an administrator here. So, yeah, I mean, but I guess you just look at it differently. Like, there's so many things I can't control that surround the pandemic and the way that education is. So why do I stress about things that are out of my control? And what are the things I can control? So I focus on the things I can control.
That is very healthy. There are certainly so many things that are beyond our circle of control or even influence right now. And letting go of some of that is a good thing for everybody. Well, how have your teachers transitioned back to, and your students transitioned back to, some sense of normalcy this year? What's happening right now at Fulton Elementary School? What does the education look like? What does the classroom look like? What's the feel?
Well, last year in order to create more homerooms and less students per homeroom. So we utilized our interventionists, we utilized our special education staff, we utilized our special staff, and we use them as homeroom teachers to reduce the number of students that we had, so we could reduce quarantines, we could reduce that and keep more students in school. So this year we've been able to transition back. So interventionists are doing their full intervention roles. We've added a math intervention position to also address some of our concerns. Specials are full back into specials. Special ed's focusing solely, on their special education population. So that's been a welcome change, because for some of our staff, that was a very abrupt, difference from one year to the next. So that's in a sense where we're getting back to normalcy in regards to that. We still have our exclusions. We still have those things and the hoops that we have to jump through there. We still are masked in the state of Illinois. So that is still quite a challenge and is still, prevalent at the forefront as we move into this school year. I would say that some of the things that staff has done so incredibly well and beyond what I could have anticipated was the way that they've rallied together. Like it didn't require me to, hey, we're in this together. We've heard that so much, and you hear it so much that it, just kind of bounces off. Staff is just there for each other. Like the grade levels work together. Everybody is sharing ideas with one another and figuring out ways to do so. And it's actually been a very positive for us here at the greatest little elementary school in the universe to be able to, to build stronger relationships with their colleagues. And it didn't require me to do anything. It was just, hey, I've got a problem and how can you help out with this? Well, I don't, but hey, so-and-so is doing this. So maybe talk with him or her. and the sharing of resources has become so much better. And then it's built stronger relationships between staff as well.
So one of my colleagues, Krista Peterson, has kind of jokingly said that she went on this 3-county listening tour as far as talking with administrators and teachers about what their needs were for this year. And one of the big things that came up was social emotional learning for not only for students, but also for teachers. Are you seeing that in your building or even in the community in general? And how are you planning to meet those needs if you see that?
So we, at the beginning of the year, started looking at, we overhauled our schedule, so to speak, and we added in an RTI and a win block, and we've added in, and we were trying to figure out how can we also put some more social emotional learning into the schedule and make it more routine versus just every so often we deal that, because we're seeing that more and more. Like, it's more extreme behaviors at the lower levels. And I'll just speak to that we've got to figure out, how do we address that? How do we provide some of that support? So we've actually got every third day, a 30-minute block that is SEL time. And we work with social stories and a variety of different things. We have resources shared from a variety of different places, from the regional office, from our counselor, we have books now that are specific to SEL that staff can share with them. So whether it's processing feelings, being able to name a feeling, like, what is the feeling that I'm actually having right now, and being able to recognize that I'm in that. I mean, there's times as an adult I don't realize what I'm doing because my emotions are getting the better of me. So, if students can do that at an early age, very positive, or just even like growth mindset. So, do you have a brick brain or do you have a bubble gum brain where new ideas and things stick and you're willing to listen to those versus nothing can stick to the brick? So, students being able to verbalize and articulate that has been very popular. Additionally, I would say the hard part then is we focus so much on doing for the students. What do we do with staff? And we as a district are trying to address that as well. We're looking at doing more of a staff intensive component when we come back to start the second semester. We start with an in-service day, and we're looking at having breakout sessions that are solely focused on that type of thing. I run a tic-tac-grow for my staff each month. So it's got just a 3x3 grid. And if you do it additionally, like, there's certain things you can get, like a little steamer sticker or a Jeans Day coupon, or you get additional supply money added to your budget. And then you go in the drawing for the big supply, money that you can have at the end. So just little positive incentives. And one of them on there for October was the October self-care thread. And it was just share a self-care idea. And within the first day, I bet there was, 15, 18 replies on day one of staff sharing things that they've done that they found to be productive as well. So those are some of the things we've done here. Additionally, our community has done, it's called a caring consortium. They met one time here recently, and the school is assisting in that process. And that's more of taking a look at what can we do within our community versus just the schools to also support staff and students with the ongoing issues that we're seeing. So we've got things slowly making their way in, but all in a positive manner.
And this is why it feels a lot more busy this year.
Without a doubt, without a doubt.
So I'm going to switch gears on us for a minute here, and I'm going to harken back to the early days of the pandemic. And I think I seem to recall there might have been a little daily kind of video programming that you made available to students, and it was really fun and lighthearted and involved flying cars and buses. Do you remember this
Yes.
at all?
Yes. So we live stream our morning announcements. If you wanted to, you could watch them every morning like our students do. We have people in the community that watch them, parents that watch them, students that can't be here because for one reason or another that they're absent, they'll log in and they'll watch the morning announcements. So it's been a very, very cool thing. When I first started, it was just we had done them over the PA system, and then I was a media publications teacher at the high school, so just brought some of that here. My tech coordinator here at the elementary school is a former student of mine, Ryan Dale, and he's amazing. It's just, I can come to him with an idea. And again, this is where having such a great staff is wonderful, that I can go to Ryan like, hey, this is what I'd like as the end result. So we've got a variety of different things, and then we've made it more fun as it's gone through. At the start of the pandemic, when we had students that were doing the morning announcements. When the pandemic started, then I took over, and we wanted to keep some sort of consistency for students in an inconsistent format. So I went through and we did those, and we put different things in, like, so what are some things we could do to win the day? And it was 5 activities, and they had to be completed before you went to bed. And it was like, go identify 3 leaves, or make a boat and see if it can float, or write a letter to a grandparent, or make a phone call to a family member, or like, there was a lot of different things that we tied in. Well, our beloved custodian of 3+ decades, that was his retirement year. And it was like, wow, he doesn't really get to enjoy some of that with the students and staff at the end because we're all at home. So what are some ways we can tie, Arnie into that? And he was on vacation. So we would take a Photoshop photo, and we had Arnie dress up and do different poses wearing a Waldo costume. And then we would put him in different spots. And one of the things that the kids would have to figure out is, where's Arnie now? And we'd put him by the Great Pyramids of, in Egypt. We would put him in a variety of different places. And it was a good way. So then one of the last things we did is, I still have this hanging up. We then took all of those places that Arnie was, and we made a very large poster for him, as far as, it's hard for me to see over my, and then we gave that to him as his retirement gift. So I still have this one back here as a little reminder of that as well. So it was just a great way to connect students, and keep us together during a time when we were physically apart. So now we play bingo. So every day we draw a bingo ball. Right now we're recognizing Hispanic Heritage Month. So we recognize a famous Hispanic American. We show their photo. We give a little information about them. So we've just made it overall a very interactive and educational experience too. So
I can just imagine how much that has impacted your sense of community at the, right now at the building, in addition to when we were going through those months where we have, entire classes of students who are quarantining, and we were displaced for a while.
Mhm.
So that's incredible. And it's even more incredible that we, over the last couple of years, technology has kind of exploded and enabled us to have those kinds of activities and community builders. So I'm really interested to know, from your perspective as a leader, how are you using technology to kind of help you lead your building and your community? And then also, how has technology changed in your classrooms with your teachers?
Okay, so first part, I'll try to address the how am I using it. Probably the best thing I'm doing right now is really being immersive in Google Docs. And Google Docs isn't anything new. It's nothing fancy. It can be. But so what I had done the previous 2 years, when we hit the pandemic, I created a Google Classroom for my staff, and that's where we shared resources. So if you needed something, go to the classroom. Last year we did it again, but it's an unorganized chaos, and it just isn't as good. Kathleen Skipper, our middle school principal, had shared out something she had seen, and then I took the ball and ran with it this summer and put one together. So I'll share my screen real quick, and I'll just show you what this looks like. Desktop 1. That's what I want to share. And is this showing well? Look good on your end? Perfect. So we just created what we call the FES Little Steam Report. So basically the port here is all of the stuff that staff need in one spot. So they bookmark this Google Sheet, and then everything they need to get to is here. And it's actually become quite nice, because now if staff is looking for that form, that sheet, that information, most of the time myself or my secretary Stace will just have to say, it's on the port. But they don't have to access 14 different emails, have those things. So a lot of times, like, hey, this new update came out, here it is in the email, and I've added it to the port. So if you need access to it later. So we've gone through, and our policies are on here, field trip information, staff procedures, schedules are on here, all of our safety and security items. Accommodations. So we've created a cheat sheet of accommodations for students that need those as well. And again, that's only accessible by, the staff that are relevant to that. So phone extension, we have a ton of different information on here. This has been a wonderful organizational tool, and the simplicity of it all, other than making some little graphics and some color, it's just links. So if we're going to link to something else or where they need to go to, like if we're looking at STEAM activities, it just links to this slide, which is shared with everybody. So here are some projects, and these are all, they link to wherever that needs to go. We've got committees, and then I link our agendas in there. We've got our, if you need to see the contract, what do you need to do if you need to have a sub? So everything's on here, and that's been fantastic. Utilizing the morning announcements. We also have several 3D printers. So we have a 3D printed baby Groot that we hide on our set. And then that's a little fun thing for students to find. But here's all of the morning announcements that we have that then get saved up there as well. Here's let's do October's Tic Tac Grow. This is a way for staff to do a little bit more, and then they get to mark it off. If they mark it off, they can win a little steamer sticker, a Jeans Day coupon, or they can earn more supply dollars for their supply budget at the end of the year. So, shout out, give praise to a staff meet, surprise them with a positive gesture, read a segment of the morning announcement. That one's probably the scariest for most staff. Share a self-care strategy, eat in the lunchroom on 2 separate days with students, brainstorm ideas to fund with a grant, dress up for Halloween, collaborate with Mr. Dale to include 3D printed objects into an activity, and then play or participate with students during recess. So if they do all those, their name goes into a drawing. And those are some of the simple things that we've been doing here. And, as heavy as education is right now, what are some ways that I can try to make it a little lighter and still be progressive and still want to, continue to grow and develop as individuals too. So those are a couple things that I've done. As far as staff, oh my goodness, I don't know where I could end as far as the technology. Between using different communication platforms, Seesaw, the Remind app, as far as the Google suite of products and all the things they do there with their students, the sharing of resources between each other, the way that they are, it's endless. And again, all spurred from being so uncomfortable last year that we had to figure that out. So now when we have students that can't be here because they're under a quarantine or they're excluded, we can still remote learn them in. We can still hop on, and that's second nature, where last year that was so intimidating. But now that we've done it so often, it becomes a lot more easily attainable. So.
Well, I love how visual you have gone with all of this information. And I love hearing how it's just so interesting. Technology is always such a intimidating thing at times. Or very overwhelming, I would say. But we were, as you said, we were kind of thrust into, figuring all of those, from logistics to instructional practices to hardware, figuring all of that out over the last 2 years. And so it's really wonderful to hear that teachers have really just kind of jumped in to the deep end, feet or head first, and have really embraced technology and using it as part of their daily practice in their classroom. So and I give, I would say, in the scope of things, the administration has done a great job of collaborating and figuring out, but by listening to our staff, what do you guys need? How can we help? And then like our technology support staff and our district tech director, like, all right, this is what we need. Great. Like there's not much of it's just like, let's get it. If that's what they need, then let's get them the tools and the resources they need, because who better to say what teachers need than the teachers? So if there's anything we can get you to be better or more, better in your current role, or to have more tools in your tool belt, then let's find the resources to be able to get that to you. So we've got a wonderful team here in Riverbend, and it's across all the grade levels, and it's non-certified, certified alike. So yeah, we're very blessed. It does take a community to get all of this done and then some. So we've spent a lot of time this morning talking about the pandemic and transitioning back to normal. That's been our lives for the last couple of years. But there is this kind of light at the end of the tunnel. So I'm curious as we look ahead. What's next for Fulton Elementary, and what are you looking forward to this year as you continue to work with your staff and your families and your students?
What's next? Oh, we've got a handful of things that we're transitioning and tackling this year. One is our student expectations. So the manner in which we handle student behaviors and discipline, we're kind of overhauling that. We've been on the clip chart system in years past, and we're going away from that to a more positive reinforcement type system. So we're using Nick Proud, who's the executive director of secondary education for the Iowa City school districts, and he's a Fulton High School alum. So we've got a nice connection there. So it's great to have him come back and work with staff. So we're spearheading that. We're using the Regional Office of Education, yourself and Krista Peterson, as you mentioned, to help kind of change over and actually I would say begin and figure out what strategy and format we need best for our RTI and our win block here. We're adding social emotional components into this year, and it's busy. I mean, we just have a lot going on, but it's also very necessary. We need to change. We need to make these system changes because it's in the best interest of our students as well. So we're trying to figure out how to best manage all of that as we go through. What am I looking forward to most this year? Ooh, get away from restrictions. I mean, we all want to get back to normal. So I think we're all looking forward to that. But I also then here's the rub. I also don't want that to ever jeopardize students being able to physically attend school. Like, I don't want that to be the takeaway. Right now we have low numbers in regards to student absences that are COVID related, and I want to keep it that way. So, and there's a variety of conversation you can have on the topic, but at the end of the day, my goal is to have students in class with their teachers, because that's how they learn best. So I have to focus on that goal aside from all of the other things, and put some, that has to be the focus for me at this time. So I'm hopeful, and I'm looking forward to the time where we get to take some of those restrictions back and still have students with their teachers in class.
I think I would, kind of speak for many people in saying that is certainly something that we are looking forward to as well. And it has been a long time coming. Well, looping us back to how we started our conversation this morning about, gosh, is it just me, or does this feel busier? And after talking with you, I feel kind of exhausted. I can't imagine. I'm thinking you probably go home at the end of the day and just kind of collapse in exhaustion, with how crazy not only the last few years have been, but also just how we continue to rapidly change and evolve and try to stay on top of things to meet the needs of our kids and support our teachers and work with our communities. So I just want to say, Jeff, on behalf of myself and the Regional Office of Education, thank you so much for all that you do and all that your time and effort and energy and passion for leading teachers and helping students. It certainly shows not only in our conversation today, but you and I have done a lot of work together in the past, and I can certainly see that shine through in everything that you do with your teachers and for your students. So thank you so much.
Well, I greatly appreciate that. And I'll give the praise right to my staff that I work with every day. I mean, they're truly on the front lines of it all in dealing with all of the issues that come up during a pandemic, and they're the ones that are the most resilient. They're the ones that are doing I'll call the true work, because they're the ones dealing firsthand with our students. So the praise I would give to them. And then I would thank the regional office, because there's been a number of times where I've needed additional assistance or resource over the last couple of years, and you guys have answered the call every single time and got me an answer one way or another. So I'm very appreciative of that, and while I'm sad that, Bob Sangaroth has recently retired, I'm happy that a mentor of mine, Chris Tennyson, is now, taking the helm. And it's great to have another former Steamer admin and Josh Knuth over there as well. So you guys are in good hands, with some more Steamer Nation crew there. So pretty happy about that.
Yes, indeed. Fulton is very well represented in our office these days. So I get to hear about all of the old stories. So that's nice. And thank you so much for the kind words. I think we're gonna wrap it up here this afternoon. Or it feels like this afternoon now, doesn't it? We've had a great conversation this morning. Thank you so much, Jeff, for all of your time this morning. Facebook friends, thanks for tuning in to this week's edition of Teacher Talk. We hope that you have an incredible Thursday, an even better Friday, an amazing weekend, and we will see you right back here next Thursday for another edition of Teacher Talk.
And for anybody watching, if somebody hasn't told you today they love you, I'm telling you, Mr. Hoese loves you. And go Steamers!